Hey everybody, our guest this week is Keith Sonia. Keith brings more than 20 years of experience in government, politics, and community engagement. His work has included 2 members of Congress helping run gubernatorial and U.S. Senate campaigns and leading communications and community engagement for city government. One idea has guided all of it. Government works better when people are part of it. That belief is rooted in his own story. He was born to 2 teenage parents and raised in a working-class family. His mother worked nonstop to buy a home and send him to college, and when the 2008 crash took that home, she kept fighting for her kids. Watching her resilience shaped his sense of service and responsibility. In Beverly, he's carried that commitment forward as board member of BevCam and as the chair of the Beverly Democratic City Committee, working to boost civic participation and to make sure voices are heard. He's also been a tremendous supporter of Hands Off Beverly. He ran for city council at large because he believes Beverly can set the standard for good local government right now, transparent, accountable, prepared for climate change, and committed to staying affordable for families and seniors alike. I'd like to welcome Keith Sonia. Keith, thanks for coming.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime.
Now, I want to jump right into it if you don't mind.
Please.
You bring more than 20 years of experience in government and campaigns. Now, I'm not trying to age you here.
Yes, well, I'm gonna
But,
tell people.
what first drew you to public service, and how has that shaped the way you approach community engagement today?
Yeah, 20 years, it sounds like a long time for someone who's still in their 30s, and it is. I got wrapped up really young. I grew up in Lynn, and got kind of wrapped up in our city committee. I just got interested as certain, like the 2000 election and things like that. I'm 12 years old, 11 or 12, and I'm like, what is going on here? And then, you creep into the 04 election. I'm older and I'm starting to better understand things. And so, I said, well, I've got to channel this enthusiasm. So that became volunteering on city council campaigns and getting wrapped up with the city committee. That led to being able to work at the State House and on campaigns for governor and U.S. Senate and Congress and local kind of county races and things like that. So
Yeah.
I've kind of been able to stay around it for a long time. And, I think what motivated me was growing up in a place where, good, smart policy can have a meaningful difference, can make a manifest difference on the lives of so many. So, I'm from a working class background. Mm-hmm. Most of our neighbors were from working class backgrounds. And I saw, how if collectively we came together, worked together to pass policy locally, to elect people who could pass policy at the state or the federal level, that can make a tangible difference in the lives of so many. So, yeah.
And, as you mentioned, your personal story plays a big role in your values right
Definitely.
now. How did growing up in that working class family influence you about, what you think about government's responsibility to everyday people?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. So, my parents were very, very young when I came around, teenagers, and as a result, we had a lot of love around us, our grandparents and things like that, for sure. But, my parents struggled. They worked odd jobs. My mom in particular worked overnights as a nursing aide and then would take on odd jobs during the day while we were in school. So she wasn't getting a ton of sleep, but she was busting her hump. She eventually was able to do enough to buy a house. And as a result of the 2008 financial crisis, mortgage crisis, she ended up losing that house. And so I think when you see somebody, and I'm sure we've all seen this, toil, work hard, do all the right things, raise a family, and work hard doing it, to have bad policy, kind of help take that away and be a hurdle and impediment to someone from the working class, climbing that ladder. Mm-hmm. to me, it's just manifestly unfair.
Right.
And so, seeing that, having a front row seat to sort of experiencing that, continues to influence me day to day and what I'd like to accomplish on behalf of folks here in Beverly, many of whom face those similar struggles or have worked hard to get to where they want to be, and deserve a fair approach to policy. And so that certainly motivates me every day.
And back to that, I mean, you've worked at every level of politics, local, state, federal. What lessons from those experiences do you think are important for a city like Beverly?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Right now.
I think, and what got me excited about running for city council, I think that we can do a lot at this level. I think a lot of our moods are influenced by what's going on maybe in Washington or beyond, certainly globally. But when we're talking about the things that we can do policy-wise, it's really at the local level where, if we put our heads together, if we work diligently to bring more voices to the table, we can do the things that will actually probably have a more meaningful impact on your day-to-day than some of the policy you might see coming from Congress or even the State House. So that's what excited me about local politics and local government, is that opportunity to work together as neighbors, really to cut across the noise if we can. Understand that most people in Beverly, want to work a good, stable job. They want to get there without hitting too many potholes, and they want to send their kids to good schools. Those are things that are kind of universal, right? And so we can work together, I think, to accomplish those things, and that's exciting because we've got a model, right? We've still got a model that government for and by the people, still works. Democracy still works. And if we can do that at the local level, show that time after time after time, it's going to cut off, any cynicism folks are feeling about what might be happening in other parts of the country. Yeah.
Now, through your work with BevCam, also the Beverly Democratic City Committee, and with Hands Off Beverly, you focused on increasing civic participation.
Yeah.
All right. What does meaningful engagement look like to you in practice?
Yeah, it's a really good question. One of the things I'd love to do as a city councilor is think about how we as a city do community engagement. And, if and when we're talking about things like the budget or our schools or infrastructure, any big ticket item that comes to town, how can we make sure that we're capturing as a large a cross-section of the community as possible so that we can feel good about what we're doing as a local government because we have the backing of the community, or the community feels informed. So a lot of my professional experience has also been in professional communication, public participation, right? So working on behalf of firms that would work with state agencies, the T, for example, if they're going to change bus routes or consolidate stations, or whatever, we would work with the community to understand how that was going to have, what kind of effect those changes might have. And so that means, working to bring voices often sidelined from those processes, getting them to a seat at the table, meeting people where they are. That was a big theme of my campaign, but starting today, I started my March office hours just today, and we did that in February as well. But being in the places where folks already go, right? So one of the great things about Hands Off is that folks kind of have that appointment in their diary now. A lot of folks are going to be there on Saturdays and Wednesdays. If there are opportunities for us to gather data that could influence, some of the city's policies, doing that at a place like Hands Off, doing that at youth sporting events, at community events. We have so many here in Beverly, which is what makes Beverly so great. Using those opportunities, not just to say hi and to glad hand, but to say like, hey, let's take 5 minutes. How do you feel about this proposal? And, that way when something kind of comes down the pike, folks can be like, oh, Keith talked to me about that at, Lobster Fest or whatever it might be. And that way we have just more and more data where we're bringing the work of city government to people rather than constantly needing them to come to us.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Now-
people, I will say, a lot of people are working hard on that. And, I think we can just continue to refine and make sure folks feel like they have a window into what the city is doing.
Now, like Ed mentioned, you're a strong supporter of Hands Off Beverly, which we greatly appreciate.
Sure.
But what drew you to that organization? What made you engage?
Yeah, I mean, first off, proximity. I live on Broadway, so even on
You can't miss us.
I cannot miss you guys. Folks coming down the street and things like that, parking. But more seriously, again, it's been a wonderful outlet for people who obviously feel strongly about the state of our shared democracy, and their ability to voice their concerns, their dissent, and I think having that regular place that folks can kind of go to do that, and to have a standing appointment, if you will, to engage with democracy, I think has been such a positive for the community. I think, on any given week, we just talked, Hands Off had about 200 folks last week on a random,
On a slushy,
chilly February Saturday.
Yeah.
Really impressive number. And my feeling is probably, there are huge swaths of folks where there's broad agreement on, the state of democracy, et cetera. I think the beautiful thing is that when we get into the nitty-gritty of certain policies, there's probably going to be, some conflicting opinions within a group that large. Mm-hmm. And I think what it's telling me is that, look, there are people who could have different opinions about marginal tax rates or, how much they want to invest in any one part of city government, but we all believe in the fundamental that makes America what it is, our democracy, human rights, rule of law, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And that is encouraging.
Yeah.
Because everything else, that's the sort of standard politics and standard government. Like, we can sit at the table and have those debates, but knowing that there's this large chunk, this great chunk of folks who are willing week after week after week to say, broadly, the thing that's most important to me right now are the fundamentals, I think is crucial. And being able to retain that many people, have the group continue to grow, reach more folks week after week after week. I mean, that 200 number is only going to get larger when it's 65 degrees in the spring. So it's inspiring that so many folks are passionate enough to do this on a weekly basis.
I mean, we were so psyched to have 150 in the fall.
Right. And
now we have 200 in the winter, and I think that
the trajectory is strong.
Yeah,
sure.
the trajectory is strong with that one.
Exactly.
So what role do you think groups like Hands Off Beverly, but not just Hands Off Beverly, what role do you think groups like that play in keeping democracy healthy at the local level? Yeah,
it's a really good question. So a lot of my PhD work was spent in places where, cynicism had really set in, because democracy was constantly being taken advantage of by those in power. They were kind of molding it into their favor. It was awfully corrupt and things like that. And so as a result, you could talk with folks who, as I did. I can give you an example. I went to a restaurant in Bosnia in a city called Mostar, which had been like the center, one of the sort of hardest hit communities during the wars of the 1990s. Folks there was a young waitress, and her father ran the restaurant. And, she got to talking about her hopes and dreams, and they sounded like they could have been from someone in any town USA. And I said, well, have you been participating sort of, do you vote and just sort of things like that? I said, well, there's really no point because nothing changes. It doesn't matter who's in office, that sort of thing. And, in the years since then, it's become much more sort of prescient, because I see, the dejection that folks sort of carry around sometimes. They see that, democracy can sometimes be incredibly messy. It's played out on 24-hour cable news and on social media in ways that I think folks find very challenging to engage with. It can be really depressing, lower your mood. Why would I want to spend time thinking about this? And then the headlines generally focus on the bad news. I think what groups like Hands Off give to people is hope that, look, if we continue to engage with each other in these types of spaces, we're going to be able to model that, again, this can work. We can come together and agree on these broad set of values and, remind ourselves that cynicism isn't going to achieve anything, and it's a certain amount of engagement and participation that's going to ultimately better the lives of our friends, our family, our neighbors, in the community that we live in. And so Hands Off gives folks that space. It's one of the many organizations in town that do, and so for that reason, I'm grateful.
You literally took away my last Hands Off Beverly question.
Yeah.
Because the show is called Hands Off Beverly,
It sure
so
is.
you know you're going to get a bunch of those.
Rightfully
but
so.
you literally answered the last one I had for you. But so let me go to this now more about you and your path. Now, you ran for city council at large to help Beverly model good government.
Yeah, definitely.
What does transparent and accountable government look like in real everyday terms for residents?
No, that's a really good question.
What does that look like?
Yeah, really good question. I think the way we ran our campaign was with that in mind. We knocked on like 10,000 doors, really put ourselves out there. My phone number is pretty widely available, 781-346-8416. Call me anytime. But that level of availability.
Put that at the bottom.
Yeah, right. A nice cry on there. But being available, doing the office hour thing, making time to be at those community events, again, to talk shop and not just to say, hey, nice to see you. And that's all great. We want to make sure that folks feel like they have representatives who are engaged with what's happening in the community. I think many of my colleagues do that. I think we can continue to get better. And that's what I ran on is like, look, how can we formalize our community engagement standards? How can we, catch up to cities here in the Commonwealth and beyond who have those kinds of standards where, again, if there's an engineering project, if there's a new development or anything else, how can folks feel like their voice is going to be kind of baked into that process? That's what I'm really engaged on because, going door to door, 10,000 doors knocked, I think a lot of folks broadly agree this is a absolutely wonderful community that we live in. Beverly, we are fortunate, for sure. And so it's getting some of those nuts and bolts things more refined in how we do things. And I know there are people in city government who are really committed to achieving that as well. And so I think it's just bringing those ideas to the table, getting them down on paper. I'm really excited to work with so many folks to try to accomplish that.
I like the fact that Beverly is more of a, it's a city with suburbs.
Yeah, right.
We got the downtown with the train and the apartments and the restaurants and all the retail shops, but then you go out a little bit to Cove, to Centerville,
the farms. There's so many defined neighborhoods.
Yeah, but it's almost like we have the best of both worlds in a way.
And it's big geographically. I remember the first time taking my wife around Beverly when she first moved here, and she's like, "Are we still in Beverly?" I'm like, "Yeah, we are." It doesn't matter. It's a big footprint.
But we're at an airport.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we have an airport.
Exactly. And so I think you're right. It is one of the coolest things about Beverly. It makes it fun and interesting to go to any one part of town, but it obviously means that, like, when we're thinking about things citywide, we have to take those unique characteristics into account when we're building out any plans that we might have. So, making sure we're capturing voices not just from any one part of town or any one demographic or what have you, but we are taking the perspective of folks who might live in different parts of the community into account. I think that's our challenge. That's why folks elected us, is to be strong representatives for an entire city and the communities within that city, and
to be forward thinking.
Yeah, and so when I put together my office hours, for example, we kind of go on tour. I do 3 days of office hours every week, and it rotates, by ward where I am. So it's not like I'm saying, hey, you in Prides or North Beverly, come downtown, even though I live downtown. It's like, no, I'll come up to you guys and, make it convenient for you to find me and, us find each other. So I think the more and more you can kind of model that you are available, that, it could be an issue like, hey, they didn't do a good enough job plowing my street. Can you relay that to public service, for example, who are very responsive? Or, hey, I have thoughts about the long-term environmental infrastructure of our community. Whatever the issues might be, everything in between, making ourselves available is key.
I actually have a question regarding that.
Yeah.
Because, climate change and affordability are big challenges for Beverly.
Definitely.
How do you see community engagement, like you're talking about, helps the city tackle those issues more effectively?
Yeah, I think it's a really important element.
Getting the people involved.
Exactly. It's a really important element in both, right? So on affordability, look, obviously we're going into a budget year, FY27, where our financial forecasting committee has forecasted that we will be facing a shortfall, a deficit. And so, when thinking about how best to address that, it makes perfect sense to me to have robust conversations in the community, so that they can better understand, what's at stake. We can better understand what the community prizes and what they want to make sure that we're continuing to fully fund. For me, I think schools are crucial. They are first of all important centers for our children, of course, but also it's a question of economic development down the line as well.
Right.
Because one of the first couple questions that any prospective business owner coming into Beverly is going to ask is like, well, how are the schools? Because they're going to be thinking about the potential staff that they could have in the area, and they want to make sure that anyone that they hire is invested in their community in the same ways that they would be. So continuing to invest in our schools makes perfect sense to me, and something that I'm very committed to, and that will ultimately, I think, breed the kind of investment in the community that lowers costs in the long run for a lot of folks, including housing costs. So we've got to continue to do that. On climate change, we are, I think, a very forward-thinking city. We've been a forward-thinking city on climate issues for a very long time. Mayor Cahill, I think has made that a real
big priority.
Exactly, and I think his team has done a wonderful job on that. His new chief of staff, for example, Julia Long, a lot of folks will know her from Green Beverly. So you know that she and the administration are committed to those issues. A lot of folks on the ground, Green Beverly, like I mentioned, but our open space committee, our recreation department, everyone is taking a look at how we can preserve, cherished parts of the community, Lynch Park, Aubert Park, our beaches, and making sure that those are something that the community can continue to enjoy for decades to come. How we think about development. We have adopted the stretch code here in Beverly to make sure that buildings are more efficient in the long run. I think how we conduct, kind of routine infrastructure repair and things like that, we can continue to make sure that's more efficient. Working with stakeholders like Grid to make sure that, first of all, that communities are not too often disturbed, but when they are, it's with the long-term environmental health of the community in mind. We're continue to electrify and make sure that Beverly is less reliant on, non-renewable sources. I think those are all things that we're committed to doing. Well, certainly I am. And I think folks can continue to engage with us on those topics.
Well, I've noticed, and I've had conversations with Mayor Cahill about this. You notice the high school's full of solar, the middle school's full of solar, not just on the top of the buildings, but over the parking lots.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah,
and there's solar farms.
I think it's forward thinking.
It's
we're
really a lot of solar in Beverly.
There certainly is, and I think that is just another demonstration of how committed his administration has been to these issues. I know in the next period of time, sort of the middle term, we'll be looking at the elementary schools and their roofs. Many of them need to be redone. A lot of them, most of them haven't been done since like the late 90s. And so I would think that would potentially be another opportunity to increase the efficiency on those buildings as well. We know that City Hall is going to be, there's going to be a rehab on City Hall. I think efficiency will be a big part of that project as well, making sure that, as a city government, city buildings are highly efficient and, demonstrate in just their basic functionality to the community, the city's commitment to long-term environmental stewardship.
Well, for residents who feel disconnected or cynical about politics,
it's understandable.
What would you say to encourage them to get involved, whether it's through groups like HOB or directly with city government?
Yeah, I would say we need you in the tent. We need you at the table. It's again, totally understandable that anyone would be looking around and saying, like, why on earth? I'll give you an example. I was going door to door during the campaign, and there was a gentleman kind of washing his pickup truck in his driveway during the summer, and I was like, hey, I'm Keith. I'm running for city council. And he kind of turned around and he was like, why? And not why, like, what are you going to do in office? But, like, why would you want to do that? Like, why on earth? You could be doing anything. Why would you want to do that? I get it. I get that folks, want to change the channel, want to read anything else, want to zone out. But we need you. Because otherwise that cynicism, it perpetuates, the issues, right? Without you at the table, all the things that you believe are true about city, state, federal government at any level, they'll just perpetuate. That is the anecdote from Bosnia, right? I don't participate. I have dreams, I have hopes, I have desires, I want to raise a family, I want a good job, I want to do well, but I don't participate.
Right.
Nothing's changed in her whole life. That is the risk that we face. We are not immune to that same outcome if cynicism were to kind of really take hold. And so what we have to do as a local government is show people that this works, that government for and by the people at this level makes sense. It's the best form of government. It improves lives. It elevates voices regardless of socioeconomic background, and that makes the most sense for a community like Beverly. Outlets like Hands Off Beverly, like civic groups, whether that's your ward civic association, the Rotary Club, the Kiwanis, whatever it might be.
Right.
These are all places that you can meet your neighbor, you can feel good about actively participating because it'll make a meaningful difference in the lives of your neighbors. We have so many great organizations here in Beverly that model this every single day. As a local government, I know myself, my colleagues are committed to doing the same thing. And that way folks can feel like, look, whatever might be on CNN on a given night is one thing, but I can go to bed knowing that I live in a community that cares about the people that live here, that is committed to good, proactive local government, and that is giving me a seat at the table. That should ideally cut down on some of that cynicism that would have folks say, like, who cares? Because you should care, for sure.
Yeah. Lastly, and this a little more light. We'll take this a little more light. We've been a little. Let's lighten it up a little bit.
Let's chill out.
What is you live downtown?
I do.
What is your favorite aspect of, not specifically, but what is your favorite aspect of Beverly, of living in Beverly? What do you enjoy the most about your life in Beverly?
That's a really great question because...
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're a heck of an interview. Is that Walter Cronkite over there? My God. It's a good question. I got that question at Forum. And the thing to say is the people really do make living here wonderful. It's kind of, it's like kind of weird and cheesy and corny, but like now I'll go downtown and I'm just like doing my routine, getting a coffee or whatever, and I'll be standing in line and I'm starting to get like kind of the squints of like, who are you again?
Yeah.
Like I've seen you, and it's never annoying. It's always an opportunity to kind of connect with somebody and take their thoughts on. So the people really do make living here wonderful. But the thing I like the most is the fact that we have so many different ways to have a great night in Beverly.
Yeah, that would have been
There are so many places to go, whether that's restaurants, our breweries, our bars. The fact that we have, 4 live event theaters in this community: North Shore Music Theater, the Cabot, the Larkham, and the Off Cabot.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like, how fortunate are we that we have, globally recognized acts coming through Beverly on any given day. I can certainly walk there from Broadway. I've seen people who, have had long careers in entertainment just right around the corner at the Off Cabot. We had our pre-wedding, like our rehearsal night at the Off Cabot. We just love the fact that no 2 days have to be the same here. Yeah. That you're very likely to have a great time. It could be a Friday or Saturday, or it could be a Tuesday. And there's something going on, and you're going to have a good time. And you're going to have a good time with wonderful, wonderful neighbors. So, look, we lived in London for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Remarkable city, obviously.
Yeah, I've been there, and very, very good city.
Terrific.
Very cool.
But, on a micro level, we feel like we get a lot of the same out of Beverly, which is that, like, hey, I can walk to a dozen different restaurants, have a very quality meal, and then go hit up a show.
Yeah.
That is cool.
And you can get on the train and be in Boston in 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
But, as I say in London, mind the gap.
Mind the gap. Be careful. Look both ways when you're crossing the tracks. But yeah, that we have all this right at our fingertips, so to speak, is remarkable.
Councilman Keith Sonia.
Matt.
I cannot thank you enough for joining us.
It is my pleasure, my friend. Invite me back anytime.
Oh, well, we absolutely will.
And thanks for all you guys are doing, yourself, Andreas, Susan, the whole team, Diana. Everybody makes Hands Off as successful as it is and has been and will be. I think the community owes you folks a great debt of gratitude as well. And I'll just say congrats. I'm sure the news will go out there, but congratulations to you all for earning an award from the Chamber of Commerce here in Beverly for being such a big part of the civic fabric here. It is well deserved.
And just lastly on that, since you brought it up, I wasn't going to bring it up. He brought it up.
You gotta.
We were nominated.
Glaze your friends.
We were nominated by our state rep,
Hannah Bowen. A great friend and ally, and a great representative.
And I thought that was just so cool.
Yeah.
That she was the one that nominated us. So.
Well, and it demonstrates, that the people who are working hard every day for Beverly, have taken note of the work you all have done to build a community that is, so consistent in how it models its own civic engagement and how, it's become a space where folks can really, 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 bond with neighbors about these kind of broad issues like democracy and human rights. And I think that is wonderful and something that I hope a lot of communities kind of model themselves after as well.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining.
Anytime.
This has been Hands Off Beverly. Please like us, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
And thanks for hosting the show. It's a good idea. We have this too. I like anybody taking advantage of it. It's good.
The studio is sick.
It's killer. I mean, most community media orgs, I feel like like we're punching above our weight.
I think so too. Hey, don't forget our weekly protests on Wednesdays from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. at 225 Cabot Street, and Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Odell Veterans Memorial Park at 158 Rantoul Street. We'd love to see you at either or both, but please remember, March 28th is the next national No Kings protest, and we would love to see you there.